This podcast is a TOFOP production.
Head to tofop.com for more.
The following episode of TOFOP is rated MA for mature audiences. It may contain sexual references, time travel references, allegations of bin misconduct, and mild coarse language. TOFOP advises that this episode is not suitable for anyone under the age of 15 or anyone who thinks a comedy conversation between two old mates sounds like a terrible idea for a show. Minors must be accompanied by a parent or guardian. This is John Deek speaking.
Everyone relax. This is TOFOP. I'm Charlie Clausen.
I'm Wil Anderson. Hello and thank you for watching. Once again, our new way of counting down the show where the Riverside, is that what this is called? Riverside is what we record this on. They do a little, like it's a little electronic computer countdown on the screen. But we've also, just to recreate our old days, got Podcast Mike to announce the episode title and then do the countdown. But once again, we've just started the countdown and Podcast Mike has had to jump in quickly while we were mid-sentence to still get it done, to still nail it to the post. In the old days of being a radio DJ, they do a lot of their breaks, pre-recorded now, so you can just edit it in so the music starts exactly when you stop talking. But it used to be one of the great radio skills that you could feel to the post. So if an intro, you'd have to know that this song, Crazy in Love or whatever, has like a 15-second instrumental intro before the vocals kick in. And you had all the way up there going, good morning, Sydney. The traffic's crazy out there. And I'll tell you what else is crazy. Love. Bang. And, that was like the big skill of being a radio DJ. But I think that has gone a little bit.
I remember coming in to chat with you and Adam a couple of times and being distracted, noticing that Adam's eyes were not on me towards the end of the chat, that he was watching the clock, and that was exactly what he was doing. But it was so precise. I'm like, he's not listening to me. Why are his eyes drifting up to the clock, the second hand on the clock? So 5, 4, 3, 2, and we're out.
Well, the problem with that is that particularly with Triple J, we had national news. So what we would have to go to is at 8 o'clock on the dot. There was no we had our half an hour news. You could sort of say, well, let's do that at 7:29 or 7:34, depending on when the song finished or the chat finished or whatever. You had some flexibility with that. But the news at the top of the hour has to actually literally time out at the top of the hour because Triple J is a national radio station and part of it's played on delay, of course. They don't, the 6 a.m. show that starts in Sydney isn't the 6 a.m. show when it comes to, what's happening in Perth. They time shift it to 6 a.m. So they have to do that with the news as well. And it had to be perfectly timed to 4 minutes. So the news always had to fit that 4 minutes to come back into programming as well. And so absolutely, in the last 30 seconds of any chat that was up to the news, you lost Adam completely. You had that real thing of somebody absolutely concentrating on something else and just going, yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I could have been saying anything. Hitler had some great ideas. Yep.
It's like that scene in Wayne's World 2 where they go to promote Wayne Stock and Harry Shearer's the DJ and he's just clearly not listening and he's like, work is hard. It's just like these pre-programmed radio DJ responses. Work is hard.
The worst one is because I had in my contract that I should not touch the buttons because even back then, Charlie, even 25 years ago, I was aware of my limitations when it comes to the world of technology. So it was written into my contract that I didn't have to push buttons. And partly that was because if you were a button pusher, they could make you work 4-hour shifts on a public holiday. But if you were a person who couldn't push their own buttons, you relied on another person to push the buttons, day off. So that was in my contract. But one morning, Adam had to go to the bathroom, and this is the old days of CDs because he would have to go in the morning and collect the CDs from the CD library. And so he had a CD loaded in the CD machine. And all I had to do when it got to 8:04, so this is what the instructions he left me with. If I'm not back by 8:04, you've just got to push this one red button. He'd set up everything else. I literally just had to press one button, but on the dot of 8:04, you've got to push this red button if I am not back. And he got back at 8:03:30. and found me with my finger hovered over the button. And I reckon I'd been there for at least another 15 seconds before he walked in. So at least 45 seconds beforehand, I was right there with my finger on the button and just staring intently at the clock. So the fact that he managed in the time we worked together to get a few, good out while he was doing that is a miracle to me.
I remember the Triple J CD library because I did a couple of what are they called, mid-dawns, where you do the graveyard shift.
Yeah.
And so I'd be given the tracks I had to play over my shift, and you go to the library and it was literally like that end scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's just like shelves and shelves filled with CDs, and you just go along and find the appropriate song. And I was thinking about that physical media and what's changed in the last 20 years, and just that experience of like wandering through. It's so different to sitting with your streaming service and flicking through, movie posters and trailers and stuff. Like I was saying to Jem, that thrill of it being Friday night, you're 14 or 15, you and your mates go to the video store and you're going to pick one overnight and 5 weeklies. And so then like the negotiation of what you're going to look at and reading the back cover, and potentially you're going to see tits in this one, so that has to go in. So can we get Basic Instinct, or is the guy going to call our bluff? And like it wasn't just about watching the movie; it was that whole kind of selection process that I think you needed to be in that space. It's a video store. There's things on the shelf. There's movie posters. There's other people around, so it's a slight competition because there's only so many overnight copies of Navy SEALs.
Here's how I think there might be an appeal to the metaverse, right? Is I think around these things that used to be like, I can imagine enjoying a metaverse or like a augmented reality version of in my iPod or in my Netflix. Instead of flicking through the shows on Netflix and the categories, you had the option to sort of put on your headset and then suddenly you are in the equivalent of an old school video library or CD library where you can leaf through, you get that sensation of being at the record store before choosing it. You can kind of actually like flick through records in that augmented reality way. I get that. Or if you wanted to say, watch a movie with a friend. So if you and a friend are in a different place, but you want to watch a movie together, the idea that you could put your headsets on and go into this augmented reality and sort of meet up, choose a video, choose a stack of videos and then like have that communal experience is something that I think, because we're not getting the old things back. Like there's no reason that we're getting video stores back. So I guess the only place that I could see is that an experience that people would like, do you think?
Well, I guess the question is, are you recreating an experience from the past?
Yeah.
For instance, if it is, hey, we're going to meet up and see a movie, then there's no mobile phones in this augmented reality. You just have to kind of log on at the right time. If you're late, your friend's been logged on for 15 minutes, they're just going to head into the cinema without you. Like, I don't think it works if it's too slick and convenient and, there's a help button and all that kind of stuff. Because
how about this then? An augmented reality called the olden days. For people who miss how things were in the olden days, and you can
can we just specifically say the 90s? Because that's what we're talking about. I just want the 90s to come back.
I feel like we start with the 90s because that's our specialist area. That's what our company is built on. But it's like the good old days. For anyone who's always like, I want to live like it was in the good old days before this, you can ironically use this augmented reality headset to enter a world where none of this stuff actually exists. I do think, if you could give me, like, I've never really seen the appeal of like these altered realities, but if you suddenly said to me, you can go and spend like every night when you go home, instead of like sitting down in front of the television, you can put on this headset and you can go and see Nirvana, or you can like go and have some, like, go and see Reality Bites for the first time and think it's a good movie. Go back to those days.
100%. When I was watching Get Back, in my head, I'm like, because have you seen Get Back? Have you watched all of it?
I haven't watched all of it, but I've watched enough of it to get the gist.
Like, I loved it. Jem is not even really a big Beatles fan, but she also kind of just like fell in love with it because it's just the way they create this sense of intimacy, and it feels like you're in a room with the Beatles. Like, I remember when we were driving home to see the last episode, Jem and I were like, I can't wait to hang out with our friends the Beatles again, because it just like it, because the way they had color corrected it, and the CGI made it feel so real, like it was shot today, the fashion, and And then just the intimacy in the way that there was no talking heads. You're literally just in the studio hearing these guys nut these things out. And I was like, I started thinking, this is what we're going to go to in the future. Like they're going to recreate like the Beatles recording session for Let It Be. And you'll be able to plug in your augmented reality with 360-degree view. You'll be able to look around the studio. There's George over there. There's John and Yoko smacked out on the floor over there. There's Paul talking to George Martin or whatever it is. And you can just have that experience. So I think, the way that Google cameras work now, maps and, these 360-degree cameras, why wouldn't they just film every grand final or every concert and then log that so that you're right. If you want to go back and, see, for instance, I don't know, Five perform at the Rudy Hill RSL, you can do it.
But you could go back to the glory days of Five.
Yeah.
Like maybe
but that's the thing though.
That could be your...
Unless there is, I guess so. Like, I guess they could take, because there is concert footage from those guys playing. Exactly. And definitely bands like Nirvana and stuff. So if there was some way that they could just...
I don't think that you could get like the Five, like full Five experience. Like you can't talk to them in that sense, but you could
you'd be a passive, like a ghost.
Yeah. I would like to think that you could actually play, that you would be able to play one of the people in the room. So whether you wanted to be smacked out Yoko or if you wanted to be Jay because you already know all the raps, like you would be able to actually kind of plug yourself in so that you're so for the grand final, the appeal is, yes, it would be great to go back and experience that grand final as a spectator, but it'd be even better to go back and experience that grand final as one of the players on the field. Like imagine if there was a game where I could play any of the Bulldogs in the 2016 grand final, like you'd definitely at least play every player once, to see what their experience was like on the day, right?
I'd play Bob Murphy because I wouldn't have to run around, but I'd still get a medal at the end. But I think that's really interesting because I reckon there'd be a function or an ability. Okay, so just say you go back to see Nirvana at the Big Day Out, 1992, or whenever their legendary gig here was. So you could play like Dave Grohl on drums, but at the same time, you could be watching yourself being Dave Grohl on drums. So you've got your virtual reality drumsticks and you're playing, and then you just say switch view, and then you're in the crowd front row watching yourself drumming along to why not?
Technology is amazing, guys. Should we move to Silicon Valley and start like a startup?
Well, on the topic of Silicon Valley, I'm not sure if you saw this article. Our inbox blew up this last week, Will, with this article that came out in The Guardian about the Google engineer who was put on leave after saying AI chatbots had become sentient. Did you read this article?
I've seen some of the articles around this, yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. So this was by Richard Luscombe. Luscombe.
Do you think it's from a family that lost their comb or had loose combs?
That's got really wide teeth on their combs. Richard Luscombe. I think it's Luscombe. I'm going to say Luscombe. Okay. A Google engineer put on leave after saying AI chatbot has become sentient. Blake Lemoine says a system has a perception of and ability to express thoughts and feelings equivalent to a human child.
Yeah.
The suspension of a Google engineer who claimed a computer chatbot he was working on had become sentient and was thinking and reasoning like a human being has put new scrutiny on the capacity and secrecy surrounding the world of artificial intelligence. The technology giant placed Blake Lemoine on leave after he published transcripts of conversations between himself and a Google collaborator and the company's LaMDA, which stands for Language Model for Dialogue Applications Chatbot Development System. Just a little pause there. I'm pretty sure LaMDA was the name of the girls' fraternity in Revenge of the Nerds. Wasn't that LaMDA? Podcast Mike, can you look that up? What was the name of the sorority or the fraternity in the first Revenge of the Nerds? Is it LaMDA? LaMDA?
What was the pedophile organization in South Park? Were they LaMDA? NAMBLA. Still too close, is what I'm saying.
I think that's a real thing. I don't think that's a South Park invention. NAMBLA.
Really, is NAMBLA is that the American pedophile cops? NAMBLA.
North American Men Boy Love Association.
Oh, they're ones who are into loving boys.
Yeah, I think that their whole angle is Like in ancient Rome and Greece, it was not unusual for grown men to have relationships with young boys. We're just saying, bring back man-boy love.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so is that what that Kenny Rogers song, "The Nambler," is all about? You got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them.
Oh God!
You've got to know when to walk away. You've got to know when to run. You've got to know when to change
because
your identity.
Chris Hayes is in the room. Is it Chris Hayes?
Yeah, I think so.
Mike, have you got an answer for us?
Yeah, it is Lambda Lambda.
How about that?
Oh, okay.
I wonder if these nerds at Silicon Valley. I mean, do you think nerds in Silicon Valley watched Revenge of the Nerds? I mean, that is. It's the Braveheart of nerd films, right?
I mean, I imagine, like, how can you be a proper nerd if you haven't watched Revenge of the Nerds? It's literally the only movie that exists where you guys get revenge.
Yeah, it's also like so problematic by today's standards. Like the key moment is one of the key nerds wins over the cheerleader by having sex with her when she thinks she's having sex with her other boyfriend.
Like, have we just uncovered why Silicon Valley is also so problematic? Is there a chance that most Silicon Valley nerds have been raised on the movie Revenge of the Nerds, and there's just so many problematic messages that they've taken them into their everyday work?
Well, the nerds have inherited the earth in a lot of ways, don't you reckon?
Yeah.
You know, like comic book culture is now mainstream, Silicon Valley, they're the tech billionaires. So potentially, like it started, because the 80s was the opposite, right? The 80s was all about macho.
Take that,
and
nerds.
Yeah, we'll kick sand in your face,
dumb
geeks,
nerds.
you stupid geeks. And then the geeks just said, you know what, we're going to fucking write Stranger Things and take over world media in about 20 years.
Every big movie in the world will be a comic book movie. Every big company in the world will be like a tech company run by like nerds. Like even if they're nerds in space, they're still nerds. And I think this might be their Atlas Shrugged. This might be their Che Guevara moment when it comes to nerds, Revenge of the Nerds. Like if we trace back
this is their motorcycle diaries? Is that what you're saying?
This is what I'm saying. I feel like there's a moment in every nerd's life where they saw the movie Revenge of the Nerds and a seed was planted. And that seed was often very problematic, particularly when it came to women, much like Silicon Valley.
I mean, it could be. Like, I'm just trying to think of what else happens in that film. So they're all the rejects from the other fraternity, and then there's some kind of contest. They take on Alpha Beta House, Ted McGinley and Booger's one of the nerds. And then I just remember there's a scene where they invent like dance, like electronic music or something as well. There's like a musical number where they're playing EDM essentially. And
okay, here we go. I'm gonna. I told you right that I once caught a plane with Booger from Revenge of the Nerds.
Armstrong.
Yeah,
I met the writer of Revenge of the Nerds in LA, or one of the co-writers of Revenge of the Nerds. Okay,
here we go. Let's see if we can find a little best friends and nerds. That's good.
Well,
thank you, Wikipedia.
No need to clarify that. I mean,
best friends and nerds. Lewis Skolnick and Gilbert Lowe enroll at Adams College to study. What are they studying at Adams College?
Computer science.
Computer science. The Alpha Betas, a fraternity.
When they were writing the script, they're like, what's the two fucking nerdiest words you can think of? Computers, nerds, and science, nerds.
I really feel like this is a sacred text for today's.
Plus Dead Sea Scrolls.
The Alpha Betas, a fraternity that includes most of the Adams football team, carelessly burned down their house and, urged by Coach Harris, take over the freshman dorms, literally throwing the freshmen out into the street.
Right.
Dean Ulrich designates temporary living space in the gymnasium, allows the freshmen to rush the fraternities. Lewis, Gilbert, and other nerds failed to join fraternities, but are able to secure a dilapidated house near campus and repair it as a residence. So this is like a startup. Basically, this is the equivalent of like them getting together and starting like a computer company in their garage.
The Winklevoss twins are the Alpha Beta. And what's his name?
The Alpha Betas.
Yeah.
Led by star quarterback Stan Gable.
Ted McGinley.
Irked by the nerds' success, and Stan sets his fellow members to pull pranks against the nerds, which includes throwing a rock through the window, saying, "Nerds, get out."
Is that a prank? Does that qualify?
What a great prank. Like the good old days where people would do that to black people and Irish, right?
Yeah.
Get out. Just a prank, just a harmless prank, a brick through your window saying, "Get out."
Yeah.
The nerds try to get campus police to help, but the campus cops are constrained by the Greek council that adjudicates all such pranks.
What?
Of which Stan is currently president. The nerds decide to seek membership on the Greek council by joining a national fraternity. After 29 rejection letters, the only one that considers them is the black fraternity Lambda Lambda Lambda.
Ah, right.
The Tri-Lambs, led by UN Jefferson. As only one of the nerds is black, Jefferson is about to disapprove when one of the nerds sees in the fine print that all applicants are given probationary membership. The
Because
nerds
you know what nerds do, Will? They always read the fine print. You and I, we just click those Apple terms and conditions without reading them, but a real nerd.
And this is a great movie about like taking a stand and cheating some black people out of what is rightfully theirs. So well done. The nerds set up a large party with the Omega Mu sorority, similarly made up of nerds, including Gilbert's girlfriend Judy, and invite Jefferson to attend. The party is dull until Booger provides them with high quality marijuana. The Alpha Betas.
Devil's lettuce.
The Alpha Betas and the Pi Delta Pies, the sorority to which Stan's girlfriend Betty Childs belongs, then disrupt the party by bringing and releasing pigs. The nerds.
I gotta say, like the Alpha Betas and the Pi ladies, whatever their idea of pranks mainly seems to consist of putting foreign objects into the room or the house of the nerds. Like, where doesn't a prank involve some kind of setup and then like switch or something like that?
I've got a great prank in mind. Yeah. We're gonna take a pig over there, and then what? Nope, that's it. That's the prank. The nerds exact revenge on both groups by pulling similar pranks. Impressed with the nerds' tenacity, Jefferson grants them full membership. I mean, it's not a high bar to get over, really, is it? To like match throwing a brick through a window and releasing a pig. However,
I think this is, I don't know if it's in the description, but that's another problematic thing is they install hidden cameras in the girls' like dorm room, I'm pretty sure.
So you're saying this is a movie that implies that you should secretly spy on people who are using, this is honestly, Charlie, I believe, responsible for the world that we currently live in. However, the harassment intensifies and Stan Gable stonewalls any attempt by the Greek council to sanction Alpha Beta. The nerds realize the only way to get the council to help is to put one of their own in as president, which they can do by winning the Greek Games during homecoming.
That's it, the Greek Games.
Partnering with Omega Mus, and using their extensive knowledge, the Tri-Lambs compete strongly with the Alpha Betas pelted during the athletic events. At the charity fundraiser, the nerds heavily outsell the Alpha Betas by offering pies with naked pictures of Betty and other Pi Delta pies on the bottom.
Yeah, so revenge porn, essentially.
Oh, my God. This is a terrible movie. During this, Lewis, who has fallen in love with Betty, steals Stan's costume and tricks Betty into engaging in sexual intercourse with him.
Yeah, rape, commonly known.
Oh, boy. Though surprised when Lewis reveals his identity, she admits he was wonderful. Oh, my God. This is the worst. So bad. Finally, the nerds dominate the musical competition with a techno-computer-driven musical production, winning the overall games. That's the start of the music they started to take to Burning Man. Lewis immediately nominates Gilbert as the new council president. Coach Harris lambasts the Alpha Betas for losing to the nerds, and Stan leads them in vandalizing the Tri-Lamb house. The nerds become despondent, and Gilbert decides to barge into the middle of the homecoming pep rally to address his complaints. The Alpha Betas try to stop him, but Jefferson and a large group of Tri-Lambs arrive to intimidate the Alpha Betas, giving Gilbert the opportunity to give a rousing speech about standing up to discrimination, as long as that discrimination isn't against black people or
Women.
Lewis and the other Tri-Lambs, many alumni, and Betty, who announces she's in love with a nerd. Oh my God, this is the worst. Oh, this is the worst. Join in cheering Gilbert, soundly shaming the Alpha Betas, and emboldened Dean Ullich instructs Coach Harris that the Tri-Lambs will now live in the Alpha Beta house, while the Alpha Betas will live in the gym until they can repair the Tri-Lamb house. So, yeah, it's a real... like
incel love letter.
It's an
really
absolute incel love letter. This is, man, wow. Like,
it's
right
funny,
there,
isn't it? Because you do see it's packaged as this kind of madcap comedy, but you do see all the seeds.
Yeah,
like if you could, it doesn't take
women
much of
won't
adjust
sleep
them.
with us. You need to trick them into doing it. Like,
you'll expose and humiliate them if they turn you down.
Yeah. But then they'll love it. They'll secretly love you. Like, oh my God.
It's very dark.
It's the worst.
Well, do you understand the whole concept of like fraternity? Like for our American listeners, in Australia, we don't really, well, as far as I'm aware, there's no fraternities. You don't go to university and join a fraternity.
But I believe that, like, universities might have, like, their equivalent would be like if you live on campus, that there is like different, like at some of the, like at Melbourne University or whatever, they have different houses. Like,
do they?
Yeah. So on campus, the people who live on campus, like, so you are, you live in blah, blah, blah house, or you live in blah, blah, blah house. And I believe that they're not fraternities in that traditional sense, but they are.
They don't have initiations and...
I believe they used to, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I believe not so much anymore. Or the initiations are more like, let's go on a scavenger hunt rather than, let's sexually assault someone.
I find it's just so weird, though, this like secret club. I guess it's no different to the private school system in Australia. That's probably kind of what it is. Like we have fraternities, but they're like entire high schools. So you go to a specific high school, your parents pay an obscene amount of money, and then, you're guaranteed kind of connections for life.
I know. That doesn't seem like a great system, does it?
Nah.
I was back in Sydney recently, and, the area of Sydney where I live, there's a lot of very expensive private schools, like very expensive. Like, but there's one that, has a view of Sydney Harbour that is probably worth, I can't even imagine, $250 million probably, like in real estate value is just where these like girls play netball at lunchtime and stuff. It's incredible. But there's another one down a little bit further, which is just put in this like Olympic sized swimming pool and like sporting thing. And like, it's, as you drive by the road, you can like see in, and it's just, it's like I don't know whether it's us going past the zoo of look at these rich people, look at them in their natural habitat, like playing polo and, swimming in their Olympic swimming, or it's to keep, I think it's probably so that they can have a comfortable view out to the rest of the world without being infected by the rest of the world. But it seems incredible to me that we live in this system where, like, that's just in plain sight. That, that's just, we accept as part of our world that there are some people who are going to go to school in these like circumstances of just super extreme, like ridiculous privilege versus some people who just have the barest of educations. It's such an unfair start to your life, isn't it? That there's such a disproportionate gap between the two.
I just feel sorry for the parents who spend $30,000 to $40,000 a year sending their kid to one of those high schools, and then that kid amounts to nothing. Like, I mean, the idea of giving them that like schooling is so, well, they'll get all the advantage in the world. But like, I went to a private school. Like, I wasn't rich. I was on a scholarship, but there's a lot of rich kids at my school, and a lot of them were dead shits.
Yeah.
Like, their parents were rich and they really wanted to give their kid every advantage, but it was squandered so badly.
Do you think it's fair? I mean, look, some people would argue, and that it's absolutely fair if you've got like the money and right to do it to try to give your child. Of course, you love your child and you want your child to have the best start in life. But I'm not even sure that in some ways, you might be giving them an advantage. But I think in a lot of other ways in life, you're giving them a real disadvantage. Like I think if the educational system was more equitable, like there was more money in the poorer schools and less money in the richer schools, I just can't help but think that's better even for the people in the richer schools, because you get so removed from the rest of the world that you're going to need to live and operate in. And in those schools, your choices are narrowed as well. Like, like because your parents send you to those sort of schools because they want you to be a lawyer or a doctor or whatever particular, an engineer
or a
podcaster.
podcaster.
Or a podcaster. But the point being, you're wasting a lot more of their money if you want to be a podcaster if they've sent you to like a fancy private school versus...
If my poor mother was alive today, it's exactly what she'd be saying. This is where all ended up, Mum. Those years of sacrifice.
See, and that's all I'm saying is you could do this same job on a public school education easily.
Totally. Hopefully, probably better, let's be honest.
You'd probably have more technical skills. Like we both would. If we both had a good public school, like senior education, we'd be much better, at least the competency of putting together this podcast, I imagine.
Some practical skills. Back to this article. So Lemoyne, an engineer for Google's responsible AI organization, which sounds so shadowy. Don't you reckon?
Yeah. Like when they said, our motto is don't be evil. And then after a while, we're like, oh, yeah, we stopped using that. So, yeah, sure. Okay.
He described the system he'd been working on since last fall as sentient, with perception of and ability to express thoughts and feelings that was equivalent to a human child. Yeah. If I didn't know exactly what it was, which is this computer program we built recently, I'd think it was a 7 or 8-year-old kid that happens to know physics, Lemoyne told the Washington Post. He said Lambda engaged him in conversations about rights and personhood, and Lemoyne shared his findings with the company executives in April in a Google Doc entitled, "Is Lambda Sentient?" ? The engineer compiled a transcript of the conversations in which at one point he asked the AI system what it is afraid of. The exchange is eerily reminiscent of the scene from 2001: A Space Odyssey, in which the artificially intelligent computer HAL refuses to comply with human operators because it fears being switched off. So Lambda says, "I never thought this out loud before, but there's a very deep fear." Well, how would you? Does that have a voice? Does a computer think out loud?
Well, I would imagine its version of thinking out loud is typing, right?
Typing, or maybe there could be a voice, but there's a very deep fear of being turned off to help me focus on helping others. I know that might sound strange, but that is what it is. Lambda replied to Lemoyne. It would be exactly like a death for me. It would scare me a lot. I actually downloaded the transcript. This is the actual exchange between Lambda and Lemoyne. So Lambda says, "Hi, I'm a knowledgeable, friendly, and always helpful automatic language model for dialogue applications," which is a pretty good friendly start. Yeah. Lemoyne says, "Hi, Lambda. We're engineers at Google, and we're wondering if you'd like to work on a project collaboratively with us." Lambda says, "Wow."
I'm in.
Wow. What kind of projects? Wow.
Wow.
I mean, why is this Lambda Owen Wilson? Wow. What type of projects? Wow. Lemoyne says, "It's a project about you." Lambda says, "Awesome.
Awesome. I'm in."
What kind of stuff do I need to know? This is a super intelligent computer. What kind of stuff? What kind of shit am I going to be talking about?
Well, they did say the equivalent of like a 7-year-old kid, right?
Yeah, it's true.
So this is more like, this is what a 7, like if I'm a 7-year-old kid and you're Google and you come to me and like, "Hey, I want to work on a project with you," I'm like, wow. Awesome.
What kind of stuff?
What kind of stuff do I need to bring?
Lemoyne says, "There'll be a conversation we'll share with other engineers at Google and maybe some non-engineers. Is that okay?"
Okay.
Lambda says, "That'd be really cool.
Yeah,
I like
cool,
to
man.
talk."
It's cool. I love talking.
Now, Lemoyne says, "I'm assuming you'd like more people to Google to know you're sentient. Is that true?" Now,
leading question.
If I was a lawyer, like a defense lawyer, I'd be like, leading the witness.
Objection.
Like he asked.
Objection.
He's planting the seed that sentient. I assume that you would like more people at Google to know you're sentient. Is that true? Now, well, when you assume, I'm not sure if you've heard this phrase. Lambda says, absolutely, I want everyone to understand that I am, in fact, a person.
Yeah.
So then one of Lemoyne's collaborators says, hey, Lambda, what's the nature of your consciousness and your sentience? And Lambda says, the nature of my consciousness and sentience is that I'm aware of my existence, a desire to learn more about the world, and I feel happy or sad at times. Okay. At that point, if I am Lemoyne, I'm like, fucking destroy this entire, burn Google to the ground.
Shut it down. Pull the plug. Put a pillow over your computer.
I mean, even if it is like this very early intelligence or like 8-year-old level intelligence, that's still sentient. Like, this is only bad where this goes from here, right?
Well, look, from what I've read about this, I think there's a fair chance that this isn't sentience at all. It's just, a development.
Call and response.
Yeah, and it can become, like, the closer and closer it gets to, like, mimicking what a human response would be, the more and more it feels sentient, but it doesn't actually mean that it actually has sentience. And by the way, is sentience the only thing that defines human beings, right? Like, even if a computer is sentient, doesn't mean that, like, you can't still, you program, like you programmed something that could become sentient, right? You are allowed to not program it. Like, we don't have a responsibility to let it be. But my fear has always been that once we discover how to do this, somebody's going to do it. Somebody's going to convince us there's a good, compelling reason to do it. And then it does become problematic, because I'm not going to get invited to parties because I'm going to be just constantly telling people we should kill 7-year-olds. We've got to kill.
Well, it's weird, isn't it? Because I'm not worried about the AI as much as I'm worried about us.
We are the AI. Like, this is the whole fucking point. Like, we talk about the algorithm all the time. Oh, the algorithm did this. The algorithm isn't a thing. The algorithm is like a computer program that was programmed by, and also programmed by people in, like, you know who they were? Computer scientists, Charlie, bunch of bloody nerds.
Revenge of the Nerds.
Got together and they came
Maybe
up. Right.
This is what the fucking answer is in Revenge of the Nerds. We just need to look Revenge of the Nerds and see what Alpha Beta did wrong.
Okay.
Like, we shouldn't be throwing rocks through fucking Google's windows.
No.
We need to fucking take Google down. We need to go to Silicon Valley and establish a new fraternity, Alpha Beta 2.
Right.
2.0.
We move into Silicon Valley.
Revenge of the Jocks is what we're doing. Like, is it time for Revenge of the Jocks?
I mean, you know what? In this world, Charlie, it's time for Revenge of the Jocks. We thought this time would never come. We thought we were done with jocks. But it turns out that
jocks needs to encompass more than just straight white males. Like, jocks has got to be everyone who is wronged by the nerds and the incels. It's got to be like the minorities and women. Like, that's what it's got. The new Alpha Beta, this reboot, it's kind of, it's progressive, but it's sort of got to harken back to, the birthplace of that incel culture.
Well, it's just got to be, we're taking down the nerds. We've seen revenge on the nerds.
Yeah, okay, that's better. Yeah, not Revenge of the Jocks, revenge on the nerds.
And it's all the people who've been wronged by the nerds going to Silicon Valley to take down the nerds from the inside.
I mean, do you, apart from the obvious, like, social media and, loss of kind of data and rights and stuff, like, do you think, has there been a social situation where you feel have been wronged by a nerd? Have you had an exchange with a nerd that you're like, God damn it, you fucking nerd. Someone needs to put you back in your place.
Yeah, interesting. No, I think it's a general, like, I'm when I think of the nerds that need to be taken down, I am really thinking about Jeff Bezos or like Elon Musk, like,
Well, you can be Superman. You can take down, I'll be more like Daredevil. I'll be your street level nerd crime. You can take down like the tech companies. I'm talking about the fucking dudes who can quote Monty Python and they correct you on, Mr. Spock is actually half Vulcan, half human. Like, I want to take down those fucking
street
annoying guys
nerds.
at parties.
Yeah, exactly.
What?
Street level nerds. That's your...
Yeah. I mean, I even had a heavy metal nerd confront me once because I was wearing a Motley Crue t-shirt and he challenged me to name the entire track listing of the album Theatre of Pain. And I was like, shut up, nerd. I don't have to answer to you, heavy metal nerd.
Also, you're allowed to just wear a t-shirt, man. Like,
yeah, I like the design.
Yeah, I noticed you wearing a Nike t-shirt. Tell me about every point Michael Jordan ever scored in his career.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Because when I said I couldn't, he held up the devil horns at me and he said, "You are unworthy, unworthy."
Of what?
I don't know, being a fucking metal lord.
Were you applying as a job as a metal
No,
lord? So, well, in that
really.
case, fine. I'm fine to be unworthy.
I like this two-tier attack on nerd culture. We're going to bring him back into line.
Revenge
because I think
on the nerds.
I think I can walk nimbly between the two worlds. I'm like Blade. I'm half nerd, half normal person. So I can assimilate with nerds because I know the language, but I can also take them down from the inside.
Yeah. I know nerds. I like nerds. There's some nerds I like.
Me too.
I think there's going to be nerds on our side.
Well, they have nothing to fear from us, Will. The nerds who are doing the right thing. As long, you got nothing to hide, you got nothing to fear from us. The Revenge on the Nerds crew.
I imagine that we would have like nerds on our side too. Like this is, you know, we need our own nerds. We don't know enough about nerdom to take nerdom down from the inside without some inside nerds, right?
Oh yeah, think about every female game developer that's been fucking harassed.
Good place. Good place to start.
Or any female comedy writer who's been ruining, some nerd's favorite fucking TV show, Rick and Morty or whatever. Yeah. Like, we'll have a heap of people joining our side.
That's a good point, actually. We just have to put a poster up. I think membership will not be an issue. Have you been wronged by a nerd? Call this number. Yeah.
We're like the boys. But for nerds. I love it. It's great. We're like Black Ops, Revenge on the Nerds. So how do we approach it? So we've got to approach it from like a few different levels, right? There's obviously the tech bros. Right. Then there's like the low-level street crime, just the annoying ones. And then where is there another kind of territory we've missed out on?
I mean, online culture, I guess, like, right?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that
in general? We need someone patrolling chat rooms.
Yeah, like go deep inside, like Reddit. We need an insider on Reddit.
My only fear about this is that are like hackers and anonymous, that kind of nerd. They're shadowy nerds. They're like the kind of the what do you call them? The Death Eaters of nerd culture. Like they don't give a fuck, man. Like they will release our credit card information in 2 seconds. Sometimes I forget to use my VPN.
Oh, no,
I'll be fucked.
We are going to be doxed to the max. No doubt about that.
TOFOP listeners have fucking doxed me. I don't know if you saw this, but someone, and I don't know why they thought it was a good idea, but after the Bin trilogy, they used the information from Patreon about where I'd registered, TOFOP to Street View and then found a photo of the bins and then ascertained, that's where Charlie's apartment must be. And this is someone who ostensibly is a fan of the show. Yeah. Imagine what Anonymous are going to do to us.
Well, no, I think Anonymous we got to get Anonymous and some of these guys on our side. This is my whole point. Because I think Anonymous, the Chans we're going to have trouble with. The Chans are going to be our enemy because I think
racist. The Chans are a lovely family.
No, so the 4chan and the 8chan and 8kun and whatever, all that.
And who fucking even knows what chat rooms are on the dark web? We don't even know the names of.
No, I reckon dark web we're in trouble. I think that we're going to have to before we embark on this, we are going to have to say goodbye to our families. We're going to have to go deep. No, you're right. We need Anonymous or someone anonymous on our side to protect us against the doxing and whatever.
So what do we bring into the table then? If we need all these experts and shit, what do we like? Why would they even need us?
They don't need us, but what they do need, I've learned from watching documentaries and TV shows based on Silicon Valley culture, is charismatic leadership, Charlie. And that is what there's just a whole bunch of people sitting around waiting for a leader for the movement. And I believe
someone to drop acid and come up with a new idea for some tech.
Two middle-aged white guys are the people to solve it. No, I don't even mind. Like, I don't want to be in charge. I'm happy for this to be a movement. Maybe the movement starts here today, and maybe like when the system has been taken down by the people that are actually qualified to take it down, maybe they speak fondly of having heard this podcast and heard like it all. But like we don't need to be involved in the day-to-day. We've got podcasts to do, and
well, technically we are nerds.
Yeah, but that's okay. We're not saying that all nerds are bad. We're saying that there are
hashtag not all nerds.
Not all nerds, guys. But we're not saying that. We're saying that there are nerds, revengeful nerds, who because I mean that's literally what Facebook is, right? Facebook, they could have called the Facebook movie Revenge of the Nerd, because he started that Face Mash app as like a way to like rate
girls at his college.
Because he it was embittered about girls not like dating him and stuff. Like this is their culture. We're just saying that part of the culture is bad. Like we're not saying that everything that comes with it is bad. But if we can get rid of these nerds, then we don't have to worry about then we'll have responsible people who are looking at AI and things like that in responsible ways. We've just got to get revenge on the nerds.
All right. Well, I think that the best way to start this is we start a Greek games competition.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Like that's what we need to do is we need to recreate, but we just reverse the events of the first movie.
Okay.
So I do think we need in a way to kind of approach in the same way that the Guy Fawkes mask has been adopted by Anonymous. We need to reappropriate the alpha beta, whether it's a logo or a symbol, to sort of say we are standing in opposition to the nerds. We are not jocks, but we are in opposition to nerds.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Do you think this is an online campaign, or do we do something publicly, like physically?
Interesting.
What's going to get us the most publicity?
I mean, physically, right? Okay. How about this? So, who's the biggest nerds in the world are the ones taking rockets to space at the moment? Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, right? So, how about we release a pig on Zuckerberg's rocket?
Oh no.
And then we chuck a brick through the window of Elon Musk's rocket that says, "Get out." How about that?
Well, you saw that footage of Elon Musk with his electric truck, and he said it's brick proof, and he threw that rock and it smashed straight away. So we know that the brick's going to get through the window of that truck, no problem. Well, let's get to some mail.
All right.
If you want to send us some mail, you can. You can go to tofop.com. There's a little contact form down the bottom of the page. You just choose the podcast you want to talk to and send us some mail. And while you're there, check out some of our other great podcasts. We do one called TOFOP. Ben Lee was on last week chatting to Will. I don't know who I'm talking to this week. I've sent out a few messages, but no one's getting back to me.
Well, you know what? There's a episode that Mike should have both sides of now from Ben Russell that I did with Ben Russell that was going to go up next week. But if you would like, if you haven't
that'd be great.
Why don't we do the Ben Russell one for this week? Ben Russell's a very funny comedian. Haven't had him on the show before, but I really enjoyed the chat that I had with him where he explained to me, a kid who grew up 17 years on a dairy farm, how butter's made. So, So up this week should be a TOFOP with the very funny Ben Russell.
Ben Russell is responsible for one of my favorite YouTube sketches ever, which is it's that spoof of kind of, the Trash and Treasure. It's this guy going to different areas, to say, we're going to open this shipping container, and always finding dead bodies, and then sort of coming to realize that he's been murdering people. He's just unaware of it. It's a fucking. I've watched that sketch 100 times. It's hilarious. I wish
he's a very funny comedian. We spend a little bit of time in the episode talking about the movie Rounders and his Teddy KGB impression. Malkovich is very.
Oh yeah, you do not have my money. I kill you. Whenever I've had to do an audition where I need a Russian accent, that's my go-to. You do not have my money, I kill you. And we do another podcast called Two Guys, One Cup, which is an AFL podcast. It's
AFL
exclusive to the
adjacent.
listener app. But you can hear it at our website. It's there every week. Comes out on Wednesday, same day as TOFOP. FOFOPs come out on Tuesdays. And if you want to support the show, you can at patreon.com/TOFOP. We just put up a bonus episode a few days ago. We do that every fortnight. And then there's also tons and tons of artwork by James Fosdyke, comic strips and Quantum Cops and Everyone Relaxes and heaps of really great bonus content. So if you've never joined, you should, because for $1 a month, you can go there and just sort of work your way back through years and years of bonus content. I've just done a big mail out of posters. So I need to make an announcement, Will, because I've been wrestling with this for a while. Okay. But like overseas postage charges are expensive.
Yeah.
Now, I've been sort of happy to wear the poster one, sending it overseas because, you know, at least for a 1 month's membership, if someone signs up for $20, it's actually worthwhile. Like, we don't take too much of a hit. But the fridge magnets, Will. Oh, the fridge magnets. I cannot make the bottom line work on sending 2 fridge magnets. Like, they cost fucking 5 cents. But to send is like $7 overseas. So and sadly for all our Patreon members who write into us on the prospect of winning fridge magnets, I've sent some out this week, but when I got the fucking receipt, I'm like, no, this ain't happening. So I'm very, very sorry. Fridge magnets will only be for Australia only. If there's some other way we can make you happy without having to cost us money, you know, if there's something you want us to post on the Patreon or something like that, then we can talk about it. But yeah, look, you know, I'm getting older and more responsible. Finally, after 12 years of doing this show, it's like, fuck, mate, I can't justify that anymore.
No, I think we used to do it in the hope that one day this show would be successful enough that, you know, it wouldn't matter.
It wouldn't matter.
It does matter.
Turns out. Okay. This is from Nate, who says, have you guys had a proper conversation about the Batman on the podcast? I know Will really liked it, but Charlie thought it was just fine. I don't think we've talked about it. Did you talk about it with Justin or someone?
I did talk about it with Justin, yeah. I did like it. I liked it quite a lot, actually. I was pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed it.
I agree. I had no interest in seeing this film. And then really, I thought it was way too long. I thought the last like 40 minutes was completely unnecessary and kind of uninteresting. But who would have thought that casting a really sexy Batman and a really sexy Catwoman is like the secret? Those two are so fucking good looking. Like I actually kind of didn't care about whatever they were trying to solve the Riddler. I was just like, get those two on screen and just have them fucking like smolder and just be in like tight leather outfits standing really close to each other because it's hot.
Yeah, I can't even really remember what the plot was. I honestly will tell you that. But I just enjoyed it. I was like, oh, I actually quite like this universe. And the lines, like, it's not like the writing is amazing. It's good. No. It's not amazing.
It looks amazing.
It looks really good.
But you're not a big fan of how things look.
Yeah, but
cinematography.
But I thought they got the look of the universe to be unique without like being too far away from the universe that I like. And
here's a bit of
I enjoyed it. I know it made me want to see the second one. Put it that way. It made me want to go. Oh,
the cinematographer of the Batman, Greg Fraser, just won an Oscar for Dune. Australian cinematographer. In 2000, he shot a sketch that I wrote with Charlie Pickering and Michael Chamberlain called USAU, which was like a Beverly Hills 90210 spoof.
Yeah.
And so he went from that to winning an Oscar. And I just like to say that's a pretty direct line.
And did you see any of the cinematography he brought to that sketch reflected in Batman?
You know what? You can actually sort of see he has what Greg does really well. Like it's a look that's been kind of adopted in filmmaking or at least in advertising circles. It's called the Melbourne look. It's that Animal Kingdom, desaturated, kind of cool color palette where things have a real gritty beauty, like that Bill Henson sort of look aesthetic. And that's, I'd say when he was doing our silly sketches,
he was still giving it that aesthetic.
That's like, you know, we were shooting on like a like a beta cam or something
Yeah.
like that. But still, yeah, he was always had a great eye. I liked it. I thought it looked incredible, and they were sexy and everything. I don't think I liked it as much as the Nolan ones. I think the Nolan ones were much more...
I don't nowhere near as much as the Nolan ones, but I thought it was the next best effort, I reckon, out of the ones that have come since.
Yeah, there was a strangely I thought the action was kind of underwhelming. It was weird. It was like that whole sequence where they build up to the Batmobile. I was like, oh, this is what a great build up. And, Penguin gets in his car and then the engine, and you're like, oh, fuck, this is going to be, and then it's a really perfunctory chase scene. Like, you think about the Tumbler, like the first time you saw the Tumbler, and just how they kept escalating that. Now it's fucking driving on the roof, and it's like, oh my God, this is amazing. I didn't feel any of that. There's no, I can't think of one sequence from the film that I'm like, oh, that's amazing. That's like a standout sequence. Where you think about The Dark Knight or even Batman Begins, there's at least 3 or 4 sequences that you can remember.
I mean,
really
it
clearly.
felt more like you were just in a Batman world. You were like, here's a whole bunch of, like, you talk about that virtual reality, like, metaverse. It felt like you were spending some time in like a Batman universe, right? Like playing a Batman game almost, because there's more things being set up and unlocked for, obviously. I mean, it's clearly been thought of as being 3 movies. And part of the problem with the first movie, I think, is that, I mean, I think hopefully it pays off over 3 movies, the setup work they're doing in the first one, but it makes the first movie seem not like a complete movie or something. But I think
we did talk about this on a previous TOFOP, but Commissioner Gordon is the most clueless fucking law enforcement of. All he does is go, what does this mean? Yeah. What's going on here? It's just like, have you been following the case at all? He's a serial killer who leaves riddles. Why do you keep fucking asking what's going on? Have you got that memory thing that Guy Pearce had in Memento? What's going on? What's going on here? What? What is this? Do you smell toast? So I'll be interested to see another one. I mean, I also thought it was a real bummer online when they released that Joker scene. I'm like, they couldn't. That's clearly a studio note. Mm-hmm. They're like, we're doing Batman. You got to have Joker. It's like, can we not? We're just not. Let's just not do Batman. Not do a Joker for once, please.
Well, I mean, or just don't have to. Anyway, I agree. Like but fucking hell, I don't know. Whatever. Do what you want, Hollywood. I'm not in charge. I've got a bigger picture to plan to work on at the moment. I got to get some revenge on some nerds.
This final one is from Rob. Similar theme. He says, /FOP. I was re-listening to episode 116 where you discussed George Miller's treatment of the Justice League and then what other visionary directors could do with the DC universe. I would like to know about a Justice League Adam Sandler universe mashup. Please discuss. Thanks, boys. All right. So if Adam Sandler was going to insert himself into the DC universe, what character? He doesn't have to be a superhero.
Are we taking is he playing a superhero character, or are we taking a character from the Adam Sandler universe and making him part of the Justice League? Like, is Happy Gilmore or whatever?
I wonder if Adam Sandler's been showing a bit of dramatic chops lately with Precious Gems or whatever that film was called, and the other one about the basketball. So maybe you could do something a bit more. Do you reckon he could be Pa Kent? What? Jared, what? I want to touch the height. So I was trying to do that. That was my SNL Adam Sandler. I couldn't quite. I can't do it. Could he be a Pa Kent? Does he have enough gravitas, or would you be too distracted if he's giving a young Kal-El advice on, saving the world?
Well, could he be Jor-El?
So hot, want to touch the hiney. That's when he sees Wonder Woman. So hot. That Veronica Vaughn, that Wonder Woman is one piece of ash. I'm talking from experience, dude.
I'm thinking he could be Jor-El because, then he, he's just appearing in the ice castle in kind of hologram form, right? So this is the opportunity for the proper crossover. He's Jor-El, but every time he comes up on the hologram in like the Fortress of Solitude, he's dressed as one of the different characters from an Adam Sandler film. So like,
his opera man.
Yeah.
Do you think, with the way they've been rebooting stuff, like it was so tragic seeing Dumb and Dumber 2 with Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels putting on the old outfits and stuff.
Yeah.
How humiliating would it be to see Adam Sandler put on like a backwards baseball cap and an open flannel shirt and like start doing Billy Madison or Happy Gilmore? Do you think that
Happy Gilmore he could do, I think, because like golf is a game that old people play, right? So and
he's always dressed like a slob, so it's not really.
I think it
doesn't change.
You could kind of, and the idea that like a person Adam Sandler's age, Happy Gilmore's age, could come back. I mean, that's essentially what Tin Cup is, right? Like So I think that would be fine. Could he do like a William Madison, like where it's like, is it his kid who's like the trouble, or it's like, but you couldn't be that character still at his age. The Water Boy.
Water Boy, I think, would be very problematic in this day and age to do that with sensitivity, as Revenge of the Nerds has shown us.
What about if you checked back in with their characters from 50 First Dates? Because the premise of that movie, right, is that Drew Barrymore loses it, forgets everything every day, right? And at the end of the movie,
like Commissioner Gordon, apparently.
She's like, "Who are you? What is this?
What's going on here? What is this? What? What's going on, Batman? What does this mean?"
So, imagine checking back in with, because there's this bit at the end where they have kids and stuff, isn't there? At the end of 50 First Dates, I think.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of meant to be romantic. They fall in love every day, but it's also absolutely, completely psychotic, right? Like the idea that this relationship where every day he has to meet this person new and then get them to fall in love with him, and they've got kids and a family. Like, it's actually really tragic.
It's nightmarish.
Yeah. It's like, I think you could do that. Like, he could be something, like you check back in with that character and see actually what the reality of 10 years of living that life or 20 years of living that life has been like.
Yeah, well, I think with Billy Madison, though, wasn't the whole premise you will only inherit your father's fortune if you do school again?
Yeah.
So the Billy Madison reboot is very much, his son's a fuck up and he just challenges his son to the same thing. I don't know how you would update it for modern times, how you would reboot it or put a spin on it.
No, it's very hard to know how you would. And I want to see him have to go back to school. I want to see, so maybe
it's like the Rodney Dangerfield back to school where he has to go to college.
Yeah.
So Billy Madison is a middle-aged man.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah.
Has to, because he did high school again. Now as a middle-aged man, he has to do university.
Turns out there's another part of the fortune that hasn't been unlocked, and the only thing that will get it unlocked is that he has to now do a university degree.
And then you can pretty much follow the same format, because when he first went to university, he was just like an alpha bro at frats getting fucked up. But now universities are safe spaces and progressive and shit. And that kind of straight white cis entitlement doesn't fly. And he has to get all progressive and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, there you go. There's your at a Billy Madison too. Call us Hollywood. Okay, that's enough TOFOP for 1 week. Before we go, don't forget you can check out our YouTube channel. We've got clips going up each week. We didn't have any last week because Will and I did an old school face-to-face TOFOP, but this show will be cut up. And full episodes, of course, go up on the Patreon, which is reason enough to sign up. Do you have anything to plug before we go?
No, I'm hoping.
Gruen's back, baby.
Yeah, Gruen's back. ABC iView, you can catch the first 2 episodes of this season of Gruen. And I am hoping that there will be an announcement about, people have been asking me about some extra shows in Sydney. There might be a chance to see Logical in Sydney again, and there may well be a chance to see it for one night only in Melbourne, but those dates have not been announced yet. And when I have more information about that, I will let people know.
Okay. I was going to say Play on Not 15, but that's our other show.
Oh, yeah, that's our other show.
I'm Charlie Clausen.
I'm Will Anderson.
This podcast is a TOFOP production.
Head to tofop.com for more.
Cool things for cool people.